say less. I'm back in that bag again. Yeah, yeah. Oh, say less. I'm back in that. Yeah. What you doing? Yeah, yeah. I'm back in that. Hey, where you going? Hey.
Welcome everyone to the SPL waiting room, your one-stop shop for all things SMITEPro League, excluding all the other stuff. I couldn't stop myself. I couldn't. It was just there. Yeah, the buzz. Man, I'm already getting buzzed, bro. 30 seconds. It's Gore, and I'm here with J-Mac, Chelly, and Dave Dolson Olson, because you're the one
That's
who
right.
you've got the full name in the title.
That's right. And it's important that I'm addressed as such.
Yeah, do you think, well, because I think it's actually really common that we call you Dave pretty often,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah. It's funny.
But, like, if I introduced myself to a generic Smite fan as William Newberry, they'd be like, who the hell is that?
Yeah, if someone came up to me and asked me, do you prefer David or Dave or Dolson, I'd say, how dare you speak to me? That would be my answer.
That's I've been on the receiving end of that a few times, actually. It's really weird. You come in for a Monday, you go, hey, Dave, by the way, you're on set 3 today.
And then he just smacks you across the face.
It's really, honestly, feels like we need to escalate this to someone. I mean, I don't know. That's what we know.
We're buzzing.
The buck stops here,
Yep.
right? That's
That's right.
HR usually says, how dare you disrespect Dave Dolson Olson?
and then
I
they
say,
smack
my
me.
bad.
And
Yeah,
that's
right.
really weird. What are we doing? Right, waiting room. We could talk about last week. Last week was crazy. Blues Ultra, very luckily, has synopsized a lot of that into concise information packets in the form of graphics. And of course, this will give you the quick recap for stuff that you want to see. Now, if you're wondering, you can see this on Reddit, Twitter, Instagram. There's probably another place that Blues uploads that, as well as their public, what are those things called? Spreadsheets.
There you go.
Now, that has a butt ton of information in it that you can find. You want to know who got the most first bloods on
I
your
do.
favorite team in week 2? He's got that, right? So you can go ahead and go find those. Just make sure that you're following them, Blues Ultra. They also do some really, really good patch graphics that just help kind of, I guess, lop it all down into tangible, tasteful
Look at
edibility, readability.
Barra on top of the KP chart there. 90%. Kill participation. 10% higher than anyone else in the league. Barra having
go,
himself
Barra.
a week.
Now I kind of want to know, one, how many kills they got that he's participating in, which I guess I have.
They got a
There was
lot.
one point I walked out during one of them. I think it was their second game on their last set of the
Yeah.
weekend, and he was 3-0-4 by
Yeah.
10 minutes.
I
I'm like,
remember that one.
Didn't
they lose that game?
Yeah, they lost that game. But he started out really good.
Because I think, was that me and you casting it, Trelly? And I think we just went, why?
You're
why
like,
is
Bear
it-
was 3-0. How did
Once
this happen?
Scream was on the other side of the map, just ignoring the fact that Barra was 5-0 at
Yeah.
one point.
35-second first blood by Lazbro.
Yeah, it was a very, very fun, very impactful week. The thing that isn't immediately on here, but I think would catch people off guard, at least for me, top kill participation, right? Genetics has the 82%, and they lost both their
That's
sets.
right.
That's what's wild to me. So he got a lot of good kill participation.
Oh,
Well,
Twig
it's easy
died
to
25
participate in a lot of
times.
kills when you're not getting a whole lot of them.
Twig dying 25 times does not bode well for my fantasy team.
Oh, is that your fantasy jungler?
Yes.
Oh,
Wait,
no.
is it? Could he lose you points? That'd be
Yes, you
Yes.
can.
He can lose you points.
You
It-
get
it
negative
takes-
points for death.
I think it does take a lot to actually lose you points because you only lose like 1 point, but you get like 2 or 2.5 for a kill.
Well, he was 1-8 on Hebo. I remember that.
Oh, no.
That was not a
Yeah.
great day. Yeah.
That was another one I remember casting and being absolutely flat.
Yeah, that was a rough one.
I was a happy
All-
PTO boy, and now I'm coming back from my vacation, and suddenly I've got a 1-8 jungler. What's going on here?
I will say the sub 15 first fire giant, pretty impressive by the Warriors
That
because we've
was
been seeing like
nuts.
17, 18 has been our average. Now like seeing a 15 is crazy.
And
That was a
what
fast-paced set.
Wild, yeah. That entire set, like that wasn't the first time or the only time that they started a fire giant below 15. Dude, I think the next one is. I mean, it was just so wild. One of them got stolen. That was wild, and that was a fun set to watch.
No one's doing it like the Warriors.
So what you need to do, yeah, is watch the Warriors this week, which we're going to talk about them a lot in a little bit, but also watch just in general Warrior sets. Period. If you missed something last week, That's one to go. Just both of them. Go back and watch those.
I like how most kills and most deaths are all junglers. They're killing the most and they're dying the most.
That tracks too. When I look specifically, like almost always, like if the most deaths on a team is not the jungler, which is it's half and half, right?
Support
it's either
or jungle.
or
Support or
jungle.
jungle, yeah.
Except for the Kings, who after this week it was variety,
Yep.
right? Which makes sense. Designated enter, they've called them that. And the Warriors as well as the Leviathans. Warriors, it's Sot and Jake tied for most deaths. Whereas for the Leviathans, it's Adapting and Wrong Hue tied for most deaths overall throughout the phase so far. But that is only a taste, I guess, of what last week held. We were talking a little bit about fantasy and how yours, Twig, was mentally on vacation, at least in one of those games, while you were out, Dave. And as it turns out, Jordan had 2 matchups this week.
Let's go.
He finally did it.
Let's go.
So he needed to be beaten down, and someone finally did it. J-Mac, you were first matchup versus Jordan.
Nice.
Pretty hefty margin.
60
What was that,
points.
40 points?
60.
Oh, yeah, 60. Math is hard, man.
Exactly.
So, like, coach-wise, like, it wasn't a blowout.
And who?
I actually ended up losing in the mid.
It's looking like, I mean, Coast.
Oh.
Jungle
gained
was
like 8
big.
Points. Jungle was huge.
Where's the big
It
one?
was kind of just, like, small points everywhere almost. Like,
Aurora was
Yeah, you actually
20
lost on
points.
mid.
yeah, I lost in mid, but everywhere else I made up for it. Just
Aurora was 20 points.
Panatom's 20 points.
Panatom's 20
Coast
points.
was-
And
Coast
then
was
you,
like
then
7
you're getting
or
5
8.
to 10 points with
with
the
everybody
others,
else. Yeah, well, and there
Take
you
it.
go.
Hey.
But that wasn't
Sorry,
his only
chat.
matchup. So Jordan had 2 shots this week. He had a doubleheader. 2
What?
opportunities.
Ooh.
So he lost to J-Mac. He also played against Miff.
Oh.
Surely he beat Math.
Sure.
Well, he also lost.
Oh.
In fact, he lost to Mifflin by a larger margin.
Oh, no. Oh, Kirby had a
Kirby
good
putting
week.
up 90?
90? Pagon with 86. That tracks. Cyclone with 87 is pretty good. Inbound with 62. That's... Given Inbound's
Yeah.
track record over the last couple of seasons and how the Glads have been performing, like this week was a good week for the Glads. So seeing 60 plus on Inbound
Think he
is
can
really
still
good.
get 52 when they lose? That's wild.
That's crazy. Coach,
The ADC
Objectives,
jungle solo 1, 2, 3 was just too hefty from Miff. Kiermead gapped. It was ahead of Oath by 30 or so, and Yark was pretty far behind
Yeah,
by
it was-
30 or so.
A massive chunk.
Yep.
Good news is that well, I guess bad news for chat. That means Jordan lost twice, so no drops this weekend.
No drops.
Good news is,
Come on, chat.
for us who are here physically in studio, which does include Jordan, he's not climbing up the ranks, and he actually ends up being, I believe, 6th overall in the leaderboard now. Unfortunately, I've fallen to 7th in the leaderboard.
oh man.
Of course, here.
No shot you're like in danger of falling behind Frost.
No, Frost had the lowest
No,
week
I'm
again.
still above Frost by almost 200.
Twig.
Was Bear top score? Oh, Oxy.
I had the lowest score of the week with Twig. My man
That's
my
my
man got
coach,
me
baby.
16 points.
Oxy got 93. Bear got me 92.
I mean, look, I'm behind a bunch of people by like 20, 30, 40 points, and Twig is behind everyone by at least 30, but 40, 50, and 60 in some aspects. Sot owned for me. Mid
Jake
did
got
fine. Wrong you
yes.
did fine. Stu did fine. Neil did fine. Literally, Twig at 16 points,
Yeah, wait, where am I?
at least 30 points behind everyone.
Or yours is partly in
Costing me
solo
some
and
points
Little
this
and
week.
mid.
solo and coach.
Yeah.
Unlucky.
Well,
Little
I've
mid.
come to terms with the points that I'm getting from Kassir. Okay, that's fair. I've come to terms
Jake,
with that.
Jake put up 91.6. That's pretty good. Like I know his team is doing good, but for a support to put up almost over 90 points is crazy.
Oxy is farming for J-Mac.
He is.
Yeah.
This man gets you 100.
I got
every-
Oxy and Panatom. I'm guaranteed like at least 150 to 160 every single week with just those two.
Yep.
The thing that's insane to me is looking at this. So again, what we're doing is, I guess after this next week, right? Week 5, that's when everything gets locked in for the finals. And very specifically, J-Mac, you are ahead right now
Yeah.
by a little under 50 points, like 45-ish.
Oh.
You're just above of Trelly. So that means you have power of choice currently. But Trelly, you're in the running. Myth is within 70 of that. And Dave, you're within about 80 of that, right? So like that.
So I'm what, 4th?
All you need is one really good week. Then right now, this is where things look. I was sitting pretty comfortable not too long ago. Hazer, then Jordan, then me, then Frost. And Frost is by a mile. So I'm not worried about last,
So you're last in studio, though.
but I'm the last in studio.
Ooh.
So what I'm saying in the most regular human terms as I possibly can is, Kings, I really need you to diff some people this weekend, man. If we can get Jordan in cosplay, it's the double whammy if he loses his 2 matchups that are coming up this week and ends up having to walk out on set in full like
But
cosplay.
Gore, are you so shallow that you will take away drops from Chad
Yes.
just so
Yes.
you don't have to cosplay?
You don't even have to finish that. It's a yes period.
Here's the thing, though.
On principle.
I think Jordan is at least within realms of winning 1 against Hazer, because Hazer's been having relatively good weeks. I don't think there's a shot that Jordan loses to Frost.
You're right.
I don't think Frost has been out of like 7th or 8th the
What is
entire time for
Frost's
fantasy.
team? Ducky, Scream, Snoopy, Genetics, Vote, and Slaney.
He
Tough.
doesn't have an awful team. He just doesn't have a scoring team.
Snoopy is definitely
Snoopy's
is
not helping the score.
70 points behind any other mid laner right now, so that's definitely not helping him too much.
That'll do it.
That'll do it.
That'll happen.
Wah wah.
That's a womp.
Yeah, I
moment.
really just need the like 30 points, 35 points to just skip hop over Jordan, and I'll be fine. I don't even care. Like, I don't care if he wins his matches
I
up.
gotta start thinking of what some of these cosplay ideas are
Yeah,
gonna be.
yeah, especially, dude, if it's gonna be me, bro, I don't want to be a part of this. I liked it way better last week when it was like Trelly's gonna be choosing for Mifflin. That was fun.
That was funny.
It's not fun anymore.
Mom, pick me up. I'm not having a good time.
Yo, maybe like, sorry guys, I can't take Masters. I'm having stuff that weekend.
Yeah, good.
I'm gonna
Good
be
thinking.
sick that weekend, guys.
Yeah, very oddly, it's gonna be like deathly sick. Like, I just can't come. Dude, never mind. I'm not gonna make that joke because it's in very poor taste. Instead, we can just look forward. Yeah, it's Frost Hazer for his last week. So, hey Jordan, enjoy the matchups. And chat,
I think he got one, Jordan.
presumably enjoy. I'm assuming something would happen. I think it's for playoffs. Is what would happen after that. But yeah, no, week 5. Next week on Thursday, we'll be announcing like the leaderboard. I'm not going to be here, so someone's going to be doing it without me. I'm going to have to look at the scores, dude. You're
gonna be so nervous. You're gonna be
now I'm
tuning in.
actually a little worried, and we'll figure that out. But for now, we could potentially move towards, and not potentially, we just will move towards the path to Masters. This kind of discussion, because that's where we're at, right? We've been talking about it this entire phase. Played 4 weeks SPL so far, 1 more week, and there's 2 halves of this conversation, which is that on one side, you've got the Warriors, and
they're
what
going.
I wrote, I can't read it verbatim because I put a wordy dirt, but I said these dudes are busted.
Yeah.
They're on an 11-set win streak right now.
Yeah.
And of course, if they win out this phase, they have 2 more sets. If they win that out, they just take the record for most wins in a row. And then we don't see them again until Masters, so it'll be a long
That's
time.
counting kickoff tournament.
That's counting kickoff. For Inception, they won 3 there. They're 8-0 now.
Okay.
And
So, since this team
That's
is
11.
formed, their competitive games have been nothing but wins and
Yeah.
set-wise.
wins.
Okay.
Jelly, I'm
Yeah.
going to you.
Please do.
Why are they so good?
Well, Gore,
Break it down.
let me start by saying, we all predicted them to be pretty bad. And I think that's because
In February.
And that's-
I'm going to put that defense out there. In
because
February.
Oxy,
And
Oxy did
also-
roast us on Twitter.
He did.
And also, it was never fully last. Remember, it was only out of the 6 teams.
Right.
Yep. And
Right.
also, they themselves straight up said, yeah, I don't know how we're doing this good either. So,
that's why-
who's truly false?
Well, I'm going to back up my statement because we all said, man, these are all really good individual players.
Yep.
But we see zero synergy, right? It just
Yep.
looking at them, it does not look like a team. It looks like 5 fraggers that you have put in a room together.
Yeah.
And let's see if they can perform. And they were all like, yeah, we expected some growing pains, but turns out we're just like, we're built different. Like, we're just nuts together. So they've got that synergy. I mean, just from starting up, like, yeah, we're all good individual rank players, but turns out when you put us all in a room together, we're just on that same wavelength. No one could have predicted that except maybe Oxy. Like, he's the coach, so he had faith in this team regardless. But in this case, they just work very well together. You can tell, even when they're down, you always get to hear about the comms, and they never think they're out. They're always like, yeah, we're just going to wait for them to mess up. We'll capitalize. We'll just play our game, that sort of thing. And the mindset being, you're the best, if you believe it enough, it's gonna happen, right? So they've just been absolutely popping off.
I think it's important though that it's a team that is talked often about, even though there might actually not be the super intricate dynamic shot calling that's going on, because they all just have the same mindset and they all just expect, here's what I would be doing in this moment, and they happen to just be on the same page. Of course, there's shot calling happening, but a lot of it's more just intuitive, and how seemingly this team of 5 players wants to play the game together anyway. I think it's also important to note that they've started winning their games, not even just this past week, but in the past few weeks, less in a like scrappy, run it down, brawl it out type play style, which they absolutely still can do, and they do win some of their games like that. But this is also a team that started winning their games in a more methodical, objective approached, late game team fight, map PvE style of way as well. I think they've diversified their win conditions, and so they've been able to lean on just being on the same page of being ranked SMITE players at the beginning.
Yeah.
And now have actually figured out how they want to play in like a consistent late game, more methodical type meta as well. I will still stand by my early season ranking. I had no idea how this team was going to synergize with one another, but they proved to us that they can, and I'm proud of them for it. It's a great team to watch.
Was it against the Leviathans or the Kings where there was a game where the Warriors just didn't care about getting the Fire Giant? Like, they just kept fighting afterward. Like, it was literally, or maybe it's even further back.
Leviathans.
I just remember them, like, they'd watch the Leviathans walk up, they'd let them take the Fire Giant, or they'd coin flip it, and then they'd just run at them and say, that's the arena button. We're going to fight now and see what you can do. And they won every one of those. And so it's like you have no pushing power, but you stripped all of their advantage away. It was just insane to watch with this, and to the point where we were getting to like a 39-minute game before they finally get themselves a Fire Giant.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you take context of this team, if you were to throw this incarnation of the Warriors into Season 9 to play up against, like, the Camelot Kings in their Prime of 9, I don't think that they are as successful. I think because the game itself has simplified a little bit, and this is something that the Kings talk about, is that there's a little bit less to do on the map. There's less macro play. You're not farming for obelisks to get trebuchets and all these sieging mechanics and things like that. Because everything has been simplified so much more in this season, it doesn't require as much of that macro play, so you can just mechanics diff people a little bit more easily. Obviously, there's still things like the comeback mechanics that are popping in with the bounties, the chest gold and whatnot, but there's so much less that you have to worry about on map that it then does boil a lot more down to just the on-field play. Sure, you got to know, okay, in 2 minutes I need to be back for my buff camp. That's not a huge deal. These guys have had that muscle memory in for the last 2 years of play or so that they've been doing just on those kinds of buff timers. So I think if you take this incarnation, put them at Season 9 and have them fight against the Kings at Worlds, Kings are probably maybe not handedly winning that one, but definitely having a much easier time dealing with them comparatively.
Yeah.
But now as we see the Kings not having that same level of success, that it's no longer about, okay, well, I can farm for 20, 25 minutes and just win the game in a single team fight, because sieges are more difficult, because we're playing around Enhanced Fire Giant, still having to worry about a lot of actual fighting portions of the game. That's why I see a lot of the only success. And I think that's where we kind of took that initial prediction back in February or March or whatever month it happened to be at that time, is we're going based off the last competitive knowledge that we had outside of just the one amateur tournament where everybody was just kind of running like the chicken with their head cut off at that point. So I think at that time is a fair assessment. We also put the caveat is this could be the best or worst team just depending on how they mesh.
I just thought they were going to be bad. I'm not going to take the blanket save. He's trying to give it to me. I'm not taking the life risk.
We kind of all
I just thought it wasn't going to work.
I mean, we all kind of pushed that this is going to be the worst team, at least out of those 6, but then they've gone and proved us wrong that they're just diffing everybody that goes out there and that they are the best.
And I want them, unbiased of course, but I do want them to win a lot, only because I want to see a record that gets set. Because I think I saw it tweeted by the Long Lane where it was just like up to a certain point over the last couple of years, we had teams like hit like 10 max, but like that was it. That was where you capped out. And then suddenly over the last like year and a half, if even, like we've just had so many teams that are just like, okay, cool. Well, I'm just going to go on an impossible streak. Good luck beating that. And so I'm looking towards them right now at just dubs, knock on wood, because I think some of those are also then going to require them to do well at Masters, since if they win this weekend, not only does it get them the record, but then I want to see them. I want to push it. Get like a 20 win streak.
Man, they've
Get
got
a
it. They've
40
sure.
win streak.
got a good shot.
Just
to
don't
win this
lose
weekend.
this entire season. Actually,
I mean, they've got a good shot this weekend. They've got
Undefeated
the
all year.
Dragons and they've got the Gladiators. Both those
Yeah.
teams in their division, 2-6 at the moment. Warriors did kind of bop them the last time that they had played. Both those teams getting a bit better from their last time, but I think that the Warriors do have a good chance to end this one out 13-0.
yeah, I'm thinking that they have a really good shot as well, and that actually does. You had mentioned the Kings a lot during the last one. It helps maybe look towards the other side because while Chaos is just Warriors, 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 it's super easy to talk about.
Very orderly.
The other side, you can't really choose. Like Kings, they just went 0-2 this weekend. They're still technically on top, but all of a sudden you're in a meta that's way closer than it was before. Ravens, they're clawing their way up towards the top, or I guess
Cawing.
their way up
Nice.
towards the top.
I mean, they do have talents. It's like claws almost.
Yeah. Hounds still in the conversation based on win-loss, right? If there's ties, that's going to definitely cause maybe some trouble for them, where they've lost some sets that they probably would have liked to win. And honestly, even though I listed those three, Ferrymen are still in that conversation as well. Like, it's really weird because I think 4 wins for the bottom 2 teams, 5 wins for the top 2 teams, and I think it's 3 losses, 4 losses. That's the 2 separations. Everybody's played their 8 games. If you go 0-2 as the Kings, 0-2 as the Ravens, but 2-0 as the Hounds or 2-0 as the Ferrymen, suddenly you see things flip.
Yeah.
And that first place spot, like, it's really weird going into a final week where first place Shelly is still up for grabs, and these teams have been taking wins off each other. It's only in division matchups, so like this is a really important week for that side of the standings.
Yep. I don't know if I'm not gonna say it's a hot take, but I think the Ferrymen have been heating up. I think they might make a run here just because there's been some questionable plays, there's been some great plays, and we always get to talk to them afterwards. And what I liked a lot from Sino, because he's been my biggest question mark for that team, was he's like, I honestly thought the gods that I was playing were good. It just they didn't work out. I understand now there's some better picks. I still think they could be good, but I'm going to look towards those better picks. And I think that was the big difference maker for me for that squad is Paul's always been performing. Cyclone Spin has really been heating up. But the biggest question mark was always, what's going to come from Sino. So I think the Ferrymen might definitely heat up here in this coming week, which is going to be a big deal because we've been talking about the possibility of a flip. Kings are trending down, Ferrymen trending up. Could be some interesting stuff, but of course, I had some big faith in the Ravens since the beginning. There's a reason that I, try to get Vera and Ven on my fantasy team. I think they still have been popping off, so only time will tell. But I think the Ferrymen might surprise us.
I think that division's going to largely come down to who's got what matchups in the last weekend here. Because
Do you want some of them?
Yeah,
'cause
sure.
I think it's really important. And this is going to be like the halfway of a teaser because it was also a little bit of talk of what we were going to do. Ravens are going to play Kings and Ferrymen. And the Hounds.
That's hard.
The Hounds also play Kings and Ferrymen.
Also difficult.
So all of a sudden,
So that leaves
Hounds and Ravens don't play each other.
right.
Kings will play Ravens Hounds. Ferrymen play Ravens Hounds.
Ravens. They played
Kings Ferrymen.
Kings
Kings,
Ferrymen.
Ferrymen.
I mean, that's a tough weekend for the Ravens. Ferrymen and Kings don't get out of the weekend super easy either. Having to play against the Ravens, they're all going to cannibalize one another, and like everyone's going to be. That's what's been happening, and that's why I think that division's been so hard to predict, is because everyone's been beating one another, and all the standings are so close. I think I'm kind of with Trelly here. I think a tournament is close enough that the Ferrymen are starting to swing up in my mind a little bit. However,
Dun, dun, dun.
I think because of the way everyone in that division has been playing and taking games off one another, I think it's almost just as likely that all these teams just split their weekend 1-1 as it is that like the Ravens randomly will 2-0 the Ferrymen and the Kings, right? Like I think each of these matchups ends up being almost as close to a 50-50 as you can get. So I think you look at a Ravens, I think they've got a 50% chance of 2-0ing their weekend. I think they got a 50% chance of going 1-1. That's not how it works. I was going to say they also have a 50% chance of going 0-2. I'd say all options are
options are
equal.
on the
So
board.
33% across the board. They could 2-0, they could 1-1, they could 0-2. I think, and I feel that way essentially about
For
any
every single
team that's playing each other here this weekend, which is why it's such an exciting final weekend to go into. Because I think trend-wise, you are feeling better about the Ferrymen than you are the Kings, but I'm not giving up faith on who is otherwise a really
That's on
strong
a trend
team.
as well. Like,
I don't know. I think if I had to vote, it would probably end up being Ferrymen or Ravens having a better weekend. But
yeah.
I think each of these teams are going to end up just trading wins, and it's going to come down to how the early portion of this phase went.
So it brings us to the harder prediction. Normally, I would look at the match of the week and say, okay, who's winning this one? Which, by the way, it is Ferryman Hounds this week is the match of the week. That's not the question I have for you, though, because it is enveloped instead by the bigger picture. So I'm going to go around. I want to know, who do you think gets first in the order division? Who's going to Masters on that side of the bracket?
So tough.
J-Mac, do you need a moment? You look like you might need a moment.
Remind me, who's in first right now? Is it Kings by one game?
Kings at 5-3, and Ravens are also 5-3, but their head-to-head is what separates
And the Ferrymen are what?
4-4, and Hounds are 4-4.
Yeah. It's
5-3
5-3
or
4-4.
I think because
and they're all playing their second matchup versus the teams that they've are currently tied with this
Right.
weekend.
you asked someone else to go first. So I'll say
Trelly,
that.
Trelly.
you haven't done any thinking out loud, so you gotta get in on this.
I think the Ferrymen are going to surprise us, but I still think I'm going the
Ravens?
boys.
I'm going the
there you
Ravens up top.
Man,
J-Mac.
this is such a tough one because, like, the Hounds have been moving upward, and I really love what we've been seeing out of the Hounds. I think that there's just enough inconsistency with them that I wouldn't bank on them being a first seed, but I think they can easily take at least one set this weekend. Ferrymen, similar on an upward trend, but I think now that Sino has stopped playing Surtur and Nike and has now jumped into what we'll call more of like an actual jungle assassin god pool that's been winning. When Sino's looking good, this is when the Ferrymen get scared because Aurora's already good. We know how we know how good Aurora is. We know how good Paul is, Cyclone, Baskin.
So you're saying Ferrymen?
The question mark was Sino, and that was the opening death segment almost every single time with the Ferrymen was, when is Sino gonna step up? When is he gonna diversify the god pool enough to actually kind of step into a proper jungle role? He's done that. I think he's finally answered that question.
So what team?
So I think that I'm gonna go with maybe the hot take and say the Ferrymen here. Because the Ravens have been good. The Kings have been downward. I think I'm putting Ferry.
Ravens have that one game advantage. I think that's going to
down.
be big. I think it's harder for the Ferrymen to swing 2 games to get in first place when all the teams are taking wins off one another. So I think that one extra win is going to be really important. I think Ravens or Kings, one of those 2 teams that's currently up there, is going to end up being first. But for the sake of deciding, I think Ravens trending a bit better. So Ravens.
I want to say Hounds just to be different. And
No one's going to say the Kings?
They've been
well, I
want to
be different.
Yeah, I mean,
I was thinking he was going to say Kings.
Well,
I
Kings-
thought I was dead set on saying Hounds.
untouched,
So we'd have all 4
unscathed?
teams.
I thought Dave was going to say it.
That's back when they were untouched and unscathed.
That's
Trevor.
They're not
Whether
untouched
anything
nor
but.
unscathed.
Who the Kings play who?
The Kings
We're
play
about
the
to get
Ravens,
it. I wanna
Ravens
get-
and the Hounds.
The same.
Well,
triangle.
having the Hounds is an advantage. The Hounds are really good though.
The Ferrymen,
Ferrymen is
I don't know. It's up in the air. Hey,
I'm going 60-40 Ravens.
60-40 Ravens. I don't have an answer.
Over Kings.
Instead, you should just find out by watching SBL this weekend. And of course, that includes tuning in to our match of the week, which is going to be the Ferrymen taking on the Hounds. It's going to close it actually here for Waiting Room. So enjoy the trailer for the match of the week, and we'll see you next week.
Styx Ferrymen versus the Eldritch Hounds. The Styx Ferrymen have been on the rise, rowing down the competition and climbing the ranks. The Eldritch Hounds fight tooth and nail to claw their way up the standings. Who will win, the old blood or the new hotness? Tune in Sunday and find out.